Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, whether it's afternoon, evening for you right now. Thank you for coming to our MyLupus, My Voice event, where we'll be discussing shared decision making, tips for navigating health information and treatments, and resources that can help people with lupus, like you, learn about your disease and treatment options. My name is Hayden, and I live with lupus and lupus nephritis, and I'm a member of the Young Patients Autoimmune Research and Empowerment Alliance, or Young Patients Area. Young Patients Area is made up of young patients with autoimmune conditions who are passionate about research. We seek to make healthcare research accessible and inclusive by empowering other young patients with relevant information about autoimmune diseases and the skills they need to engage in all stages of research. We are currently working on a project dedicated to sharing information about shared decision making, which is a process where patients and their healthcare providers work together to make decisions about treatment that are informed by science, the patient's history, and the patient's values and preferences. Before we begin, we'd like to review some event norms. We ask that all participants please stay muted during the event, but please feel more than welcome to use the chat to ask questions and make comments throughout the event. Ella, one of our members from Young Patients Area, is serving as our event moderator today and will engage with the chat to make sure that everyone is heard. Today's event includes some opportunities for discussion, so please feel free to unmute and participate during those portions. We'd also like to remind everyone that this event is recorded and parts of the recording may be used for future promotional materials. However, any health information you voluntarily disclose will not be reshared in any capacity outside this event. We are very excited to host this event focused on shared decision making for people with lupus. We'll begin with a brief discussion surrounding shared decision making. Then we'll talk about some wonderful resources available for people like you to better engage in shared decision making, such as organizations, resources like Young Patients Area's Pocket Card, and research opportunities as well. And then finally, we'll hear from you. So without further ado, let's get started. First, we'd like to do a knowledge check surrounding shared decision making. We're curious about your prior knowledge and experiences going into this event. So, what we want to ask is a few questions surrounding your experiences. First, we want to know, have you heard of the term shared decision making? Next, have you ever participated in collaborative decision making with your healthcare provider? Third, have you ever looked for information to help you feel more knowledgeable when making decisions? And finally, how would you rate your experiences with shared decision making on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being poor or maybe no experience, and 5 being great experiences? We invite you to go ahead and type in the chat some of your experiences and answers to these questions here, and then we'll discuss the responses a little bit before moving on to the next portion of our event. I see here that we have some people who have heard of shared decision making, some people who have participated in collaborative decision making, and others who maybe not so much. Some who have looked for information to help feel more knowledgeable, lots of those experiences. And then I see more people are rating about a 2 or 3 regarding their experiences with shared decision making. So closer to the poor end of the spectrum than the positive end. Yeah, we see some people are talking about how it's difficult to talk to your doctor. It's sometimes hard to get them to listen. Um, but there are others who maybe they get fortunate and lucky and they have providers willing to engage in conversations. So it sounds like we have a lot of people with experience um, looking for health information to feel more knowledgeable. Lots of people who do know what shared decision making is, but maybe a little bit more variety when it comes to people's experiences. So, what we're hoping is that the information that we provide during this event today will potentially help either introduce these shared decision making conversations with your doctor so that you can experience those and then potentially improve them if you haven't had positive experiences in the past. So, thank you everyone for sharing. So, we're going to do a brief review of the idea of shared decision making because although many of you shared that you are familiar with the term, Young Patients Area has actually done some pretty interesting work when it comes to our understanding of shared decision making and how we disseminate. So, first, the way that Young Patients Area has defined shared decision making is that shared decision making is when patients and their healthcare providers work together to make decisions about treatment that are informed by science, the patient's history, and the patient's values and preferences. This is different from healthcare models where healthcare providers make decisions for the patients or simply prescribe treatment plans without much patient input. This image that you see here was actually created in real time during one of Young Patients Area's events by an illustrative note taker. And this was taken or drawn during one of our discussions where we talked about what shared decision making means to us, why it's important to us, and images that we thought evoked feelings representative of shared decision making or ideas that we wanted to encompass with this idea. I'll give us a minute to just kind of sit with this image and look at it. I love this image because it very clearly illustrates how an important part of the shared decision making process is the conversation between healthcare providers and their patients. This transactional conversation is so important because it allows their medical team to inform the patient of relevant information regarding their treatment options, like potential benefits or side effects. But it also allows the patient to inform their medical team about their treatment preferences, such as what symptoms you might want to prioritize during your treatment, ways that you'd prefer your treatment be administered, how frequently you want your treatment administered, or perhaps side effects that you are experiencing or want to avoid. This collaboration ensures that the decision that is made positively impacts the patient's health and their daily living. Shared decision making can be beneficial to so many patients as it allows care teams to identify the patient's main problems and collaborate to create these solutions. This process helps improve patients' healthcare experiences both in and outside of the clinic. It benefits their experiences in the clinic by facilitating more collaborative conversations between patients and their provider, thereby creating more positive visits and relationships. But it also allows patients to have more freedom in directing the focus of conversations during their appointments. Shared decision making also benefits experiences outside the clinic by helping the patient select treatments that are more compatible with their lifestyle and preferences, giving them more positive perceptions towards their treatment. Having access to informative and understandable resources is an important part of the shared decision making process. So that's why we want to share some helpful resources with you today. One resource that patients can use is patient centered organizations and nonprofits dedicated to education and empowerment, such as our guest today, Cryptic Wings. Cryptic Wings is a nonprofit organization dedicated to supporting and empowering people living with lupus through advocacy, education, and community. Today, we have the honor of hearing from Leah Howard, the founder of Cryptic Wings. I'm excited to introduce Leah, who will tell us more about herself, her organization, and her experiences with shared decision making, as well as how Cryptic Wings can help too.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that, Hayden. So again, my name is Leah, and thank you to YP Area for having me today for My Lupus, My Voice. So today I'm talking about my journey living with lupus. to start off. So I was diagnosed with SLE and lupus nephritis at the age of 15. So I lived with lupus for over half of my life. And lupus altered my physical appearance, mental health, friendships, and lifestyle. And I had to learn to be an advocate for my health at a young age because my parents weren't involved in my care in the beginning. So I had to learn how to do all the shared decision making on my own. I like to say I was gifted with lupus. So with all the bad things that can happen with lupus is a lot of, I would like to say more good things than bad for me personally. So lupus gifted me the community I've always dreamed of. Lupus gifted me so many opportunities, including going to Washington, D.C. to talk with Congress. Lupus gifted me the inspiration to start Cryptic Wings. And then currently, my lupus nephritis have progressed to kidney failure. So I'm currently on home dialysis and hoping to get a kidney on the transplant list. So now going into learning to find how I found my voice and then becoming an active partner in my care. So starting with childcare. So I was at the Boston Children's Hospital, who I miss so much. So I was involved in all of my healthcare decision. I didn't know the words and terms that we're learning about today, but they kind of helped me, my nephrologist at the time and lupus doctor, who I am still in contact with today. They made that space for me to be able to be involved in every decision. They broke everything down to me. They made sure that I understood everything that was going on and that I had options, understood the options and effects of things. So I got to choose treatments. I understood the risks and benefits if something I was taking at that time as a child was going to affect me later on, in terms of if I wanted to be a mom or not. Like they were really breaking things down for me and creating that space. And they also like gave me this picture of what I thought healthcare was going to be like forever. But that changed once I got to adult care. So I knew about the side effects, and they gave me the safe space to know that I didn't have to deal with all the side effects. It was up to me. It wasn't something that like sometimes we hear doctors just want us to like persevere and deal with them, and they don't really give us an option to navigate that. Um, I asked a lot of questions because it was safe to do so. And ultimately speaking up for myself. So again, majority of me practicing informed or shared decision making started um was in childcare, but it changed in adult care. So I had to do it a lot more and like relearn that this thing that I was trying to do is something that I'm allowed to do. So it was like all the work that I did in childcare kind of like went away once I transferred. So I had a lot of doctors who gaslight me, or they don't really make it seem like you have an option. So it became a thing where I thought maybe that's just something you could do in childcare and it doesn't happen for you when you're in adult care. But overall, I learned and am still learning that my voice matters and asking questions isn't difficult. It's being informed because the care that you're receiving is for you, and you want to make sure you're asking questions if you need it. And these lessons, they help you with not only just your healthcare, but everywhere in the world. Like if you're making an order somewhere and your order is not right, you have to remember like that's your money, you're spending, that's something you're going to ingest. So it's good for you to speak up for things that don't feel right, or you just want to be informed. This applies to the health as well. Um, Shared decision making builds confidence. And overall, I'm not an expert. I'm like a work in progress myself. I can do this speech to you all today, and I can still have some struggling when I'm talking to a healthcare provider this week or next week. But I encourage everyone to like keep going and not let that affect you. So we're going to go into the birth of cryptic wings. So Crypto Greens is my nonprofit, and these are different photo shoots that we have done in the lupus awareness photo shoots every year. And every other photo you see previous and to come is also from those photo shoots. Um, and each photo shoot is a different theme. So I'll go left to right. We have our very first body paint shoot. where every model was painted differently by an artist to showcase how different the disease presents itself differently. Um, and then again, from the same series, we have fingerprint disease. A lot of the time when you have lupus, you kind of get grouped up into one stereotype of what lupus is. So one thing that we kind of joke about in our community is how we hate when people like compare us to someone that they know with lupus. Lupus again affects everyone differently. It shows up differently, which is similar to how a fingerprint is on every person. Then we have X-ray vision. I wanted to show what it would look like if you took an X-ray of a person and it could reveal where the disease is active in that person's body. For these two models, we have the heart. The next one, men have lupus too. For some reason, it's a stereotype that women can only have lupus, and also that lupus can be beautiful. Bottom left, we have the many faces of lupus because there's not one look to lupus. Anybody of any kind of look can have lupus, so that was to showcase that. The next one was remembering those we've lost. And then we have the fingerprint disease by a person who actually has lupus. It does get hard every year for us to find actual lupus warriors to participate, but we do have people who don't have lupus, and we call them our monarchs. And it's sometimes it's hard because people with lupus don't sometimes we don't have the confidence because of how the disease affects our body and our perception of what we look like. And then the last one, butterflies are a symbol of lupus. So this butterfly is projected, butterflies on her sleeves and her shirt. And so for this slide is from patient to advocate. So as I mentioned earlier, my experiences inspired me to create Cryptic Wings. So when I was diagnosed, it was really alarming to me that no one knew what lupus was. I didn't know what lupus was. I did what most shouldn't do, and I Googled the symptoms, and it was just like, wow, this disease does so many things, and no one knows about it. So I made it my mission and I became a self-proclaimed advocate and I started to share my story online and I just started to write about anything that was happening in regards to my lupus. And then as the years went on, I realized that I wanted to reach more people, but also that I'm very community oriented. So I thought of a way of combining the two, and that's became the birth of Cryptic Wings. So our mission is to promote awareness, empower, and support lupus warriors while serving as a resource for information, wellness, and advocacy. And we help people living with lupus feel supported. We help them understand their condition, build confidence, and become stronger advocates. So what does shared decision making look like to Cryptic Wings? So basically what you heard before, it looks like two sides, or for us, because we have many healthcare providers, but two sides generally working together for one common goal. And then what do these sides bring to the table? The patients, we bring our past experience, personal goals, values, daily life and experiences, while the healthcare providers can bring medical knowledge, treatment options, and clinical expertise. And then we work together as one team because the best decisions can happen when both voices are equally valued. And I think that's the biggest hurdle sometimes when it comes to shared decision making is the healthcare provider kind of stepping down from their sense of hierarchy, if you will, and then you leveling the playing field and allowing the patients to have a say so in something that's happening to them. So what do we do at Cryptic Wings? And here's a list of some of the things that we do. Again, our annual lupus awareness photo shoots that celebrates resilience. We share powerful stories and ultimately raise lupus awareness. That's the biggest and hugest thing about our organization. We have in-person and virtual events. Topics can include self-advocacy, mental health, navigating healthcare, and living well with lupus. And then lastly, we do community events and awareness campaigns. One of our most popular is we do purple pumpkins for lupus near Halloween. We do purple ornaments for Christmas, and then a purple plate for Thanksgiving. Educational resources, peer support, and then storytelling. So why specifically do we do awareness photo shoots? First and foremost, it's a way for me personally to be able to, it's a therapeutic way for me to deal with my disease. I'm an extreme creative person. I will study creative writing in college. I'm into anything creative. I'm down for it. I'll do it. So this was a way for me to incorporate that into my business, incorporate community all in one, and then spread lupus awareness. Like I feel like this is the best thing that I could have came up with. um, Also, we are restoring confidence and celebrating beauty. So back to that topic of with lupus warriors, because lupus can have an impact on our bodies, on our minds. So this is a way to show lupus warriors, the beauty that they still have within themselves, and remind them that it's not lost and it's still there and it can be there. It's also for community and collaboration. So we come together with volunteer makeup artists, photographers, models who do it for a career, and just our neighbors, which we refer to as monarchs. And we come together and we create this beautiful magic. And I am the creative director for these photo shoots. So I come up with everything you see in the photo, from the poses, hairstyles, clothes. And then lastly, it's a meaningful experience, and then it expands awareness. So back to that awareness, which is really big for us. This is another way where we can get lupus out there. We want to keep spreading lupus awareness until everyone knows when they see purple, they think of lupus the same way you see pink, you may think of cancer. So this is a way for us to reach a different audience. We post them online on our websites. We've been featured in a magazine before. So this is just a creative way for us to get lupus out there. So for this slide is just a snapshot of some of the things that we've done over the year. We've done a birthday with a purpose fundraiser event. We hosted an art supply drive for the Boston Children's Hospital, the ICU unit. We've created 200 purple power packs for the Walk to End Now lupus walkers. And we were also able to get a Roxbury school to do a school-wide Put on Purple Day where the students and staff all were purple. The kids were able to learn about facts in their classroom. And then at the assembly, we had speakers such as myself and some students come up and read facts about lupus. So it was a fun way to spread lupus awareness. And here's some shots from that event with the elementary school. Here's some of the students with the purple masks on and shirts. We also had balloons. Everyone has their purple gear on. This is our speaker from GSK. And that's myself speaking. And I also have pom-poms, which is fun too. And these are the pictures from our lupus photo shoot. And I'll tell you a little bit about them. Starting from the top right, this is from our series called Insidious Pull, the two on the top. So the strain represents the invisible strain that can happen when you have lupus that people don't see. So even looking at me right now, presenting this, you can't see if I have pain right now. You can't see the mental warfare that you can have with lupus. So this was a visible representation of that. And then to the right, we wanted to showcase that the effects that it can have on relationships, whether it's intimate, friends, co-workers, our friendships, and the strain that can come with having a lupus, with people maybe not understanding you or changing up or not listening to how you're feeling and how your body's changing. And then on the bottom, we have invisible illness transpose, which is where if in a world where you can take lupus and then you can be in it and embrace it and live inside lupus. So we tried to come up with a purple lighting and then just have the models look like they're empowered. And then on the right, we have just Lupus Warrior. So she wore like a goddess costume, and then we had her with purple props. And then we have Walk for the Voiceless. So we had the purple tape on our face to represent the lupus warriors who aren't able to speak up and share their concerns for lupus or be have awareness because either they're no longer with us or they don't have the confidence to. And so we do that for them. And then right beside is another picture from the fingerprint um, season where we had different paints on the model's body. And then to the bottom is symbols of lupus. And then we have the lupus warrior again. Next, we have doctor's visit. And then we have butterfly warrior because butterfly is a symbol for lupus. And then we have the insidious pull for the last two to again just show the invisible strain that the disease can have on us. So back to awareness and why does awareness matter? Because it's something that I talked about a lot. For us, awareness is the biggest thing because in different situations, I feel like, and we feel like it can snowball to the things that we need, and just like the shared decision making. So if we have more awareness going on, then that leads to education. And then we can do the education on the shared decision making on both parties. So the healthcare providers and the patient, education leads to confidence. And when you have more confidence, better conversations can be had because you're able to ask for better conversations. You're able to set the boundaries for what you want that to look like. And that ultimately leads to shared decision making and better healthcare experiences for patients. So, my advice for patients and caregivers when it comes to shared decision making, I would say for us patients, ask questions, ask all the questions you want and you need. If it's hard for you to ask in person, write all your stuff down, take notes, and then follow up on my chart or email or text, whatever you and your provider communicate, and ask them that way. Bring someone with you if it makes you more comfortable. You can also have that person know what questions you have ahead of time. So if you're not able to, they're able to jump in and help you and assist you. Speak up because your voice does matter, no matter what provider makes you feel otherwise. And maybe that means it's time for another one if they're not able to hear you. And you have that right as well. And then for caregivers, I would say just listen and support your patient, your warrior. Encourage them to ask questions and to speak up and be a part of the healthcare team. Introduce yourself to the doctors. Let them know who you are. Be another point of contact because that can alleviate some stress and pressure off the patient. And you can be that resource to make the shared decision as well. And thank you. And that's all I have.
Thank you so much. Sorry about that little technical difficulty at the start, but that was amazing.
No
So many of
worries.
those photos were so beautiful, and we just really
Thank you.
appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you so much, Hayden.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. So we heard a lot from Leah and about cryptic wings, and we have two other resources that we want to talk about today. The next one that we want to talk about is our Young Patients Area pocket card. A common experience for many patients is just not really knowing what questions to ask during your appointment. You know that it's important to ask them, but maybe you don't know where to start, or you have so many questions that you're not really sure which one is the most important to ask first. We all know that the questions are especially a really big part of the shared decision making process, as they're helpful in informing you so that you can participate in those decisions. Therefore, Young Patients Area has designed this pocket card resource that can help you. When identifying questions that you'd like to ask your healthcare provider, remember to prioritize your wants and needs, whether that be your long term health goals, side effects that you might want to avoid, or just whether or not you'd like to understand your condition better. These pocket cards include examples of talking points for appointments, such as how you're feeling about your treatment, what your health goals are, which treatment options are available, and how to find more resources. It also includes questions that you can ask, such as what are my treatment options? How is this treatment administered? or what are potential side effects of this treatment. Although this resource offers lots of great examples, we also strongly encourage that you identify your own goals and values and preferences and use those to develop your own questions ahead of your appointment. Additionally, it's really helpful to practice asking questions before your appointment with a family member, a friend, a caregiver, so that you can gain a little bit more confidence and comfortability with having those discussions. You can download the PDF to this pocket card by visiting our website, www.youngpatientsarea.org. And we have it available there where you can print it, cut it out, and it folds into a business card size so that you can just put it in your pocket, put it in your wallet, and bring it with you to help guide you through these discussions at your appointment. And then the final resource that we want to talk about today is research. Specifically, we want to highlight Dr. Jazz Singh and his team, who worked on this project titled Individualized Decision Aid for Diverse Women with Lupus Nephritis. Essentially, this study focused on the impact of shared decision making by examining the efficacy of online decision aids in helping women with lupus nephritis make decisions about their treatment. In partnership with our illustrative note taker that we talked about earlier, Young Patients Area was able to represent some of the key takeaways from this research article, including how the research team utilized patient input to create and test their app to ensure that the app is user-friendly and relevant to patients' daily lives. The research team prioritized the voices of women and underrepresented groups to help ensure that the decision aid better represented members of the lupus community. For example, over half of the 301 participants were Black and or Hispanic Latino and had a yearly income of less than 400,000 annual. And over 1/3 of participants had equal or less than a high school education. And finally, compared to paper pamphlet decision aids, the online decision aid and app helped patients be more informed about their treatment options and feel more confident that their medication choice aligned with their values. Research like this study that includes patient input and prioritizes underrepresented groups can serve as an amazing resource for patients to learn about their disease and their treatment options. For example, the app used in this study is called MyLupus, and it's just one of many resources that exist and that hopefully can be further developed in the future that are not only meant to inform patients, but are made with patient input as well. However, we also recognize that research can sometimes be a little difficult to navigate. Therefore, another tool that you can use is Young Patient Area's Patient Research Guide, which teaches you about the research process, how to navigate research, and how to determine if research is reputable and trustworthy. This guide is also available on our website. So those are the main resources that we wanted to highlight today. And I just want to say, as someone who was diagnosed at 15 years old and didn't really know anything about my disease at the time and didn't know anyone else with my disease, I was kind of lost on where to go for information that was accurate, applicable, or even understandable for where I was at the time. Resources like these have made such a difference in my life between then and now and my journey with lupus, and hopefully they can help you as well. Before we end this event, we would like to hear more from you. So we want to know about your experiences with resources such as other nonprofits, things like the pocket card that we produced, or even research studies. We want to know what you liked about those resources, maybe things that you didn't like, what you want to see more of in future resources, and then other ways that us at Young Patients Area can help. But before we discuss these questions, we're going to do a brief wrap up so that we can end the recording, and you'll be free to unmute yourselves and discuss without that being included on our final recording. So before I end it, for anyone watching this future recording, please consider scanning this QR code and taking our event survey. Those in the event right now can also do the same. Your feedback on the survey will basically give us information to help inform our future events through Young Patients Area as well. So we would really appreciate that. While people in the meeting right now work on that, to anyone watching this recording on a later date, you can access all of the resources that we referenced today on our website, www.youngpatientsarea.org. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at or at YP_area. From our entire team, thank you for joining us. And I will end the recording here, and then we can stay on for our discussion.